Hello to the chicas. In today's video we are going to do something really cool and analyze a very instructive endgame. But before I get into that, check out the merch, baby. The merch has arrived and I'm wearing a t-shirt underneath. I will show you that too. Although this is gonna mess with the green screen and I also bought the wrong size. Make sure you don't do that. But Mr. Boomski is also here. So yeah, I am very excited that now I can wear it while I'm recording content. A+ for dressing up. So yeah, super cool stuff. The shop is available through YouTube and I also put various links everywhere, so you can do that. But now let's get on with chess, and today we are going to analyze a bishop endgame which comes from the very recent Grand Swiss, straight out of Samarkand. Clearly and easily one of the best competition of recent times. Chess competitions, that is, like not Fischer Random or any other variants and time controls and whatever. It was just a fabulous event. Top chess players all over the shop, fighting chess, really exciting games, and so on. And speaking of fighting games, the last round, that was the decisive round, featured Anish Giri defeating Hans Niemann, allowing Giri to win the tournament. And I was watching this game live, and I must make a confession that I was mostly watching it with the engine on, but let's just start with the beginning because it's actually quite interesting to see the narrative of the game. So it was reasonably quiet English, which followed the theoretical path that basically lands black in this endgame scenario where white has got the two bishops, and also there is another important imbalance in the position, which is the pawns distribution. So we have got 4 versus 3 on the king side and they have got 3 versus 2 on the queen side. It is important because the more imbalances you have, the more likely that you will be able to find ways to play for a win. And win indeed Anish did in this endgame, slowly but surely building up his position here, actually rejecting an unofficial draw offer with the repetition up and down on the d file, and ultimately he managed to trick Hans hereabouts with this clever exchange pseudo sack, regaining the exchange and landing ourselves in this bishop endgame. Now when I looked at this endgame, obviously I didn't need the engine to know that this had to be a winning bishop ending, since white is up a pawn, and although there are 3 pawns on the light squares which is matching our bishop, which is bad news, but the good news is that the pawns for most intents and purposes are mobile, and so it shouldn't be a problem really to hold this draw. If black could play here back-to-back 2 moves, and or 3 even, and they could play g5, king e5 and h6, I do think that this would be a borderline impossible scenario to win. But as it is, Anish plays g5, completely eliminating the blockade idea of g5 fixing all pawns on white. And yeah, this should be easy peasy. And then I keep watching on. And so Anish goes king e3. I would have played the exact same. King c5. And this is where things started to get a little bit weird for my understanding, or the lack thereof, because Anish plays king f4, which, by the way, according to the engine, is one of the best moves in the position. But to me, I want to say it doesn't make sense, because that's very harsh, and I like to be careful with those types of things. But it seems to me that if we can't get e5 in, then king f4 is weird. It's in the way of the pawn. It just somehow doesn't feel right to me. And the move that feels right is f4, and I couldn't for the life of me see why you wouldn't do that. Like, I actually tried to disprove f4, but I couldn't. There is just absolutely nothing that explains why I would go king f4 rather than f4, take, pawn e5, take, and I'm gonna step up with f4, and this should be easy as pie. Granted, the general consensus is that you would like to avoid trading pawns as best as possible, but we've got plenty of those guys left on the board. It should not be a problem at all. King d5, king f4, bishop, queen back, king back, and I can already kick the king out. And yeah, I don't see it. I honestly do not see it. Now I can just go after this pawn, play bishop f5 if I want. Like, yeah, there is no two ways to say it. I just didn't get why Anish didn't play this. Moreover, after king f4, king d4 was played. Take was played, and after a4, a5, at this point, the engine told me that it's north of +5, and I'm like, really? +5? Like, that means that it's a crystal clear win, and of course it is one, but when I see +5 in an endgame, I tend to think that, okay, this should be like this. And so I started to think about how would I win this if I were Anish. And I have to tell you that it took me a fair bit. Like, it wasn't a blink of an eye kind of thing that, that's it. And even after a fair bit of investigation, I managed to find a few important and interesting details, which I now would like to share with you. That being said, I think it would be a very good idea for those who are inclined to engage with these types of challenges to pause the video and try to come up with the winning strategy. Now, I've purposely used the wording winning strategy here because, and this is something that I always tell my students when we discuss endgames, in particular reasonably clean endgames like this identical colored bishop scenario, that this is a phase of a game where coming up with a broad idea, a concept, is actually the best way to go. You figure out the concept and then you attach the calculation to it. And this is the mistake, by the way, that club level players very often make in openings and middle games, where this kind of thinking very rarely works. There you need to, at the very least, do them parallel side by side, but generally speaking, the calculation just beats all kinds of airy-fairy concepts, because that's the nature of the game. I mean, of course, you can rely on basic strategy like I need to pawn storm on the king side because we are castled opposite sides, but that's it. And then you have to calculate your guts out. Whereas here, you can, and in fact should, come to the conclusion that you want to play king f5. There is no way to force this bishop off of this diagonal other than getting our bishop to f5. And so now I told you what I like to refer to in openings and endgames as the telling tall tales and stories. Now we have that. Now we need to adjust the plan. And the plan is quite long, but really, really, really beautiful. And it goes like this. Bishop e2, played by Anish. And here Hans, to my greatest disappointment, played king c5, which again, and I'm reluctant to critique these guys because they are way out of my league. But to me, this makes no sense again, because the king on d4 disallowed white to fix the pawns by playing king e3, f4, as well as disallowed e5. King c5 allows both. And in fact, after e5, again, it does appear to be a completely problem-free victory for white. What I would have loved to see for Hans is to go like, well, beat me, brother. Or let's go with bishop e6. And show me what you got. I'm holding f5, you can't break with e5, knock yourself out with moving the bishop around. And like I said, the plan is to get into into f5, but it's not that clear. For starters, I dislike bishop b5 here, although it does win. The idea being to come around, but it allows black to play king c5 with the tempo and then drop back to d6. Some kind of defending setup is being built here. It still loses, but it's more precise if we go the longer route and we go bishop d1, bishop a4 to disallow this coming with a tempo. So black just holds the diagonal, so we execute our plan. And I was quite impressed with myself when I got to this, because I immediately recognized here the second stage of the plan, which was to force the black bishop onto this diagonal. And I can accomplish that by virtually any bishop move on this diagonal, because then I'm threatening to play king up and eat up the pawn. Alright? So I tried bishop g4, bishop g6, and now we are entering yet another phase, which, by the way, is one of the most common motives and ideas when it comes to winning identical colored bishop endings. And that is what we refer to in chess, Zugzwang, when one is compelled to move, and that's the reason why they lose. So we play here h5, and after bishop h7, when we play a pass move with the bishop, black is now busted, because if the king moves, we can break with e5, and if the bishop leaves, then we have got king f5 picking off the pawn. And I thought, wow, that was really cool. That is a really, really neat little plan, and I'm going to make an epic video out of it, and everyone is going to be very happy and impressed, including me. And then I thought, let's just demonstrate the win, shall we? And I went king f5, bishop f7, and then I took this because I'm a potato, and after bishop h5, I realized that, I'm losing one of these, if not both, but let's just go with one, and all of a sudden, I can't win. And the main reason why I cannot win, and this is absolutely bananas, next level stuff, is because I can actually sack and go after this guy here. And as a matter of fact, I don't even need to win this guy here. All I need to do is to get home. b8 is good enough. This is not winnable, because you can't smoke my king out of the corner. Insane theoretical ending right here for you. King g5, king d6, bishop random, king b8. Let's say we eat the pawn, and I just bury my king on g8, b8, excuse me. And it's rotten luck, because the bishop and the pawn combined should win if the pawn wasn't on the board, because we have got the correct corner. But this happens to be a theoretically drawn endgame, because you simply can't smoke me out and you can't checkmate me either. And the reason for that is the stalemate problem. Like now you play a pass, and after king a8 you would want to play two moves, the king move and the check. Right? There's one cheeky motive that you can set up for if you want to win this, by the way, and that looks like this. You play pass, king a8, you play king c6, and then you put the bishop on the long diagonal. And now if they go to the corner, it's mate. But now after king c8, you can't prevent them from going back to b8, thus retaining the draw. White can't win. Hello? How cool was that? So I'm like, okay, so we are winning, but not quite yet, are we? So in this position, actually, we need to play f4, exclamation mark. Allowing the h5 pawn to be captured. Then we play bishop c6, and now the f6 pawn is dropping, and then we are going to win the game. And even here, it's very, very nuanced. My favorite variation, and I will be honest with you, I haven't looked at king e3. So we need to have a look at that. My favorite variation here was bishop f3, king f6, and there is an absolutely insane win here too. Bishop e4, king e4, f5, h5, king g5, h4. And it looks like we're queening together, and we are. Tuck, 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 tuck. But rotten luck, checkerino, and we're picking off the queen. Hello? What a line. So I feel fully justified in my desire to wanting to see how this would have been won, this endgame, if Hans hadn't given up the control of these squares with king c5, which I insist was an impractical decision. Because as you could see, there was still a fair few ways here to go wrong. Now granted, most of these are well below the 2700 GM level, but objectively speaking, when you are dead, you are trying to stir the game toward the direction where your opponent needs to dodge the largest number of pitfalls, irrespective of how difficult they are to dodge, right? Now, what is this with, oopsie daisies, with king e3 here? I didn't look at this. So I'm not trying to internalize how this line is going to be different when I sack my bishop for the pawn. And what I'm thinking is the case here, and I haven't looked at it, so I didn't quite do my due diligence, but this is the beauty of chess, that even when you feel like you have 100% prepared material, more and more questions pop up and you find yourself completely, you know, very deeply analyzing again the exact same position that you thought you had already figured out entirely, only to be, you know, gently touched on the shoulder, getting reminded that there is something more here cooking. Okay, so what I was gonna say is that I think that now this journey is too long to be realistic. So if I do here, 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 oh, I get it. I can actually outsmart the bishop. The diagonal is gonna be too short. So in fact, e7, king here, bishop f3, and we just won the chess game, yeah? Because now, after bishop e8, king g7, king d6, king f8, bishop b5, bishop h5, ooh, king here, king bishop here, bishop back, bishop a4, bishop here, and this. Wow. Wow. Welcome to Bishop Endings, ladies and gentlemen. That actually, I didn't expect this finish, but that was beautiful. That is no die endgames 101, by the way. Because that is how you are supposed to win this bishop ending if I remove all the pawns from the board and I just keep that guy on. This is in Silman's endgame, by the way, and the endgame book. So, yeah, I think that is my final word on this. So, Hans lost the game with as follows, but I think this was the really, really fun way to play, and this was a really fun exercise to figure out how to win with white if black keeps the king on d4, denying both e5 and king e3. Yeah, so they have got everything covered. Hans played king c5, and to my mind, this made Anish's job a lot easier. King there, yeah, and now the king had to go back to utter passivity while we have the passer. And he called it a day. So, look, he must have thought that he was dead lost, which he was, and he felt like he probably wanted to be out of the game as soon as possible, rather than going through all the misery that I demonstrated. But for us, mere mortals, it was a marvelous endgame exercise, a beautiful opportunity to engage with a complex endgame that is very much solvable and doable despite the quite notable and really cool intricacies. So I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did, because I'm definitely going to hang on to this and add it to my endgame exercises to study with my students. Once again, please check out the Put Your Pieces in the Center and other kinds of merch, which is to be found in the shop. If you click on my YouTube channel under my banner, you will see that now there is a shop icon that you can click. So that is all there. As far as the video is concerned, please don't forget to sub, to like, to comment, super thank me if you can. And I will see you in the next video very soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.